webinar. So welcome everyone. Last webinar for this season before the end of the academic year in the region here in Dubai. I'm so happy to have with me Paul. Paul is in the UK now, and he will be presenting using visuals online to enhance learning outcome. I would like to thank from now Rizwan, Shakira, Farah, and Sean, who are going to be our student today and are going to work in a very interactive way with Paul. Paul, it's for you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much for the intro. I'm going to attempt to make this as interactive as possible and as useful as possible for you. Just one quick question, Ali. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah, we can see your screen. We are ready to start with this interactive session. I'm going to, I just have a question quickly here. Where do we find the recording? I'm going to send everyone the YouTube channel and the link. This session is recorded. And if we face any technical problem, bear with us today. We are modeling a real life class with a teacher and a student who are going to get introduced to a platform for the first time. So let's see what will happen, Paul. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Okay. No, thank you so much for the warm introduction, Ali. And I'm a great believer of trying out new technologies. And I think this is the first time that I can remember where huge populations of people have been forced to try out different types of technology, and I'd like to think that we can all model that. So I want to try out some new ideas with you today, and we'll see. I think there's a good chance that they'll work. I can't be any more positive than that, but I've tried them out and we use them in live situations in classrooms here in the UK, and the results have been pretty good. So this is the title. We're going to be using visuals online to enhance learning outcomes. Before we go into that, I just want to introduce just a bit more about where I'm from, because you're probably thinking, you know, who is this guy? So my background was predominantly working with using visuals in classrooms, and I've always had one foot in educational research and one foot in the classroom. This has allowed me to sort of try out new ideas in the classroom. I've been very fortunate enough to look at work with these organisations you can see on your screen. Just a quick outline of what I'm going to do. I want to have a look at the kind of the rationale for using visuals. I think this is really important because often they're described as being a kind of a snazzy thing that look good, and they make students' books look great, and they're nice to look at, and you can print them off and it's great. But there's something more fundamental about visuals that's going on, something cognitive that I think we all need to have a look at, because it's they're an incredibly powerful tool to use in the classroom. And then we're going to have a look at how we can use them in a classroom situation. Thanks to our wonderful pretend students for today, we're going to have a go at this. So we're going to model how you could use them in the classroom, sort of in a kind of a mock situation, and we'll see how we get on with this. And then I'm going to, it's Ali's birthday today, and I bought you all birthday presents, and it's a new taxonomy that I've just finished, and I'm sure if I send that to Ali, he can send it out to all of you, and I hope it's useful. But the idea of this new taxonomy is to help children think more productively, and I'll come to that in a bit. In terms of the tools we're going to use, this is not so much about tools and strategies as such. This is more about using broad principles of visual learning. So the one for the session today, we're going to be using Miro, a relatively new platform. It's a whiteboard based platform. And then we're going to use Whimsical as well. And Whimsical is like a sort of traditional sort of mind mapping tool, amongst the sort of easiest ones I found. So let's just frame this session. I don't mean this literally, but think about when we look at the visuals, try and picture one of your students and think about them and maybe the struggles that they have in the classroom and the things that they find difficult. So, and I don't mean it when I say can't think. They can think, obviously, and I don't take that literally, but it's maybe they have a working memory problem or they have muddled thoughts. Think about them when we look at these strategies, and I think it will give you a lot more purpose. And then again, the won't thinks, the ones who just want to get to the right answer. They obviously do think, but they just want to get to the answer the quickest way possible and kind of sidestep any hard work. So I like to start with profound statements, and this is the one that I want to start with. Visuals are essential for learning. There's just no getting away from this. And to prove this point, I'm going to give you a task to do. And this is for everyone on the webinar. However, we've got 241 of you, okay, going to do this. But you're not going to be tested on this, but you're going to test yourself. And this is going to prove a point. I'm going to present a paragraph to you, a really simple paragraph, he says, smiling. And your job is to read that paragraph, and I'm going to ask you three comprehension questions about that paragraph. This is really simple. I'm smiling at you because it's not. Okay, here we go. Here's your paragraph. I'm going to give you a few seconds to read it. I'll go back to it. So here's your paragraph. I'm going to read it out just in case some of you are on small devices on your mobile phones. Helen is the head coach of girls football development at Taunton FC. Gemma runs the under-9s team. Sam, Josh and Susie are Gemma's assistant coaches. Tina runs the under-12s team. Faith, Sue and Mike are Tina's assistant coaches. Susie, Faith and Sue and Tina are volunteering together on the new under-7s community project. I told you it'd be simple. So what I've presented you is a really simple paragraph, and what your mind is doing, it's first of all, you're decoding the text, and it might be that some of you English is your second language, and well, for all of us, we're decoding the text. We're trying to extrapolate the meaning from that text, and we're trying to manipulate those ideas in our head. And you're putting a lot of pressure on your working memory. Now, that's the challenge. So here's the three questions. And if you get these right, you win a prize. I haven't thought the prize yet. Okay, so who is the highest ranking person in the under-7s project? Which team has the most staff in the under-7s project? Which people are not involved with the under-7s project? Now, this is an incredibly difficult task for all the reasons I've just mentioned. You're having to remember what you've just read, and I could make it easier for you. I could go back to the paragraph and then I could go back to here, but that's what your attention does. That's what your students' attention does when they're in an exam situation. They're flipping from one to another, and your working memory is not very good at that. Now, the principle I'm trying to get through today, and if you don't remember anything else, this is the kind of the thing, is that instead of giving you that, I could have just given you that. Now that would have made a lot more sense. I can wrap up all the meaning, all the people, all the characters. I can show you the relationships. I can use color, and then I can use simple labels. And I've tried to make it as simple as possible, so you can understand it and you can remember that. So the visuals are, I'm going to argue today that the visuals are capable of holding a lot more information than text alone. With text, you have to grapple your way through the decoding of it, where with a diagram, you've got instant access to the meaning. So that's the kind of the sort of the proof. And I was trying to think of a sort of an eloquent way of putting this. And I think it comes back to this old proverb, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. That's what visual tools do. You're giving opportunities for children to learn how to learn. You're not doing it for them. And it's something that they're going to need. We know that they're going to need this later on in life. So think of visual tools as mental navigational tools. So, you know, they're the equivalent of a map and a compass. I send you off to explore a new land. I give you a map and a compass. Now you're capable of navigating your way around this new territory. Students encounter new territories every day academically. So they're going from one lesson to another lesson. They're encountering schemas, and they're being asked to remember all of this stuff, and they're going to ask questions about it. And having visual tools by your side is a kind of like a toolkit that you can have to navigate your way through. And there's kind of the thing that I hear again and again is about independent learners and teachers wanting their children to be independent thinkers. And that's kind of our responsibility. That doesn't just happen. We have to give them the tools and the strategies and the mindset to become independent. It doesn't just happen overnight. Just a quick bit of background about who looked at this, and then we're going to do a quick task. So it was Joseph Novak who came up with the term sort of learning to learn, and well, he's one of the people who's used it. I was going to give you a quick potted history, and he came up with a concept map, and he created taxonomies about using this, and you can find his videos on YouTube, and it's a really interesting. But I think this is back in 1982, so we're going back quite a way. This is more recent. This is Barbra Tversky's book, How Action Shapes where she argues how action shapes thought in the book. And she talks about how fundamental space is in terms of our thinking. We think about where things are in relation to other things. It's integral to how we understand things, and it's also integral to how we communicate our understanding. I'm building the case for visuals in case you haven't realized. Okay. All the links in here I will send you because I think that'll be really useful for the classroom. That was the theory, but let's look at the practice. This person I find he's very good. Francis Miller. He created a wonderful PDF on a document about all the different knowledge structures, and he created this wonderful way of displaying knowledge in different organizational principles, and that's what we're going to have a look at now. And then for our, I didn't know if we had any UK teachers on here, but this guy, Oliver Caviglioli, has done a lot of work in this area. I used to work with him, and he came up with this book last year, Dual Coding with Teachers, and it's been a real success, and it's changing practice here in the UK and further afield. And he talks about dual coding as a kind of a principle. It gives you the computational advantage. So if you present a visual alongside the text, you're giving the student a clear advantage. Anyway, within the book, he created this wonderful taxonomy, and I think it's called Organizing the Organizers. So this is what we're going to use now to kind of create our online maps. So he created what Oliver's I think has tried to do is to kind of chunk down all the different ways you can use knowledge or graphic organizers. So when you ask a student a question, usually if you're asking them why did, and then the question comes in there, you're asking them to think about cause and effect. You're asking them to think about a kind of a causal relationship. If you ask a student what happened, you're asking them to sequence. How is such and such different to such and such? You're asking them to compare. Chunking's kind of organizing information sort of holistically. Think about writing a kind of a description of something. So what all of these people are proposing is that if you can teach students to identify what they are being asked, and then they can choose a corresponding graphic organizer, which is probably one of the best things about, the biggest thing about becoming an independent learner. You know what to do with information. Okay, so what I'm going to do, with this presentation, I want to sort of jump between different screens, and there's no kind of seamless way of doing this. Apart from just popping up the different screens, and what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Miro now. Now our students, hopefully you'll be able to see. I'm going to make my screen full size. Hopefully everyone on this call should be able to see which graphic organizer should we use, and this is Miro. This is what it looks like. So, and what I've done is I've put an extract of Oliver's book in there, the Organising the Organisers, and I've dumped it in the middle of a canvas. And around that canvas, I've asked our lovely students a question, which graphic organizer should we use? And around the outside, we've got different tasks. So we've got plan a presentation, which global figure has done the most for the world. And you can see our students' Post-it notes moving around now. And I'm asking them to think about which one should they use for which task. So they're going to write down on their Post-it notes, I don't know, maybe for planning a presentation, I think I should use a tree diagram. That might be a good way to start thinking about what I need to do. So what I'm trying to do here is model how you can use visuals online, but the actual topic is for using graphic organizers. So I've tried to sort of dual purpose this. Hopefully it's working. But you can see that the ideas are coming in now. And for you and your students, for everyone on this webinar, this might be an interesting tool to use for synchronous learning. So what I mean by that is, instead of giving the worksheets or online tasks and then they come back and you've got the completed work, this might allow you to think together. So having a group of students coming up together with ideas and organizing them together. Now you can see on here, look, our students, we've obviously got, Ali, you've chosen a really good group today because they come up with some great ideas, aren't they?
So let me add, Paul, that they can choose different colors for the post-it so you know who's typing what. The participant in the chat, they are happy with this new idea. And I think we have a question. So for Miro, you share the link in advance with your student, right, Paul?
Absolutely, yes. And I'll just say about Miro, the reason I've chosen it is because if you work in a school, this is free. The full version is free, so there's not many barriers, and they're very quick at sending out the licenses to you. But you can have different class groups. So similar to sort of Google Classroom or other learning management systems that you might use. But with this, you can just put anything in. It could be a picture, a PDF, a document, and then your students can get to work on it really quickly. So I'll just show you how I shared it. On here, I click the share, and then I created a public link, anyone with a link, but I could just have that internally if I wanted to, or I could just
Okay, Paul, I have another question I'm going to ask you now, because I think the interaction really started now. And then the participants are asking, so the breakout room on Miro, does it work like on Zoom?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, yesterday we used this. We had breakout rooms on Zoom, and each breakout room on Zoom had a corresponding canvas on Miro, and that worked really well. So off they went to their breakout rooms, and then they came back with a completed Miro. So the metaphor I would use, they're a bit like having tables, and on those tables you do your thinking. And you can see, Ali, our students today, I mean, they're as independent as you can get, aren't they?
So again, I would let Rizwan, Shakira, Farah, and Sean, if they have any question, feel free to come in the discussion with Paul. And here again, it's to explain for everyone. We have 4 students who are interacting in a very synchronous way with Paul, and then everyone is seeing how this presentation is going. If you have any question, please send it in the question and answer section. At several moments, I'm going to drop those questions and ask Paul. Paul, if you can stay near to your microphone, we can hear you much better. Because when
I'll just turn it up.
Yes. Okay. So, and then I will leave you now to continue with the following.
Okay, wonderful. So you should see now that we've got a number of these ideas in, and now you can see some of the people are creating links. You know, they've gone to the next level. But within this, let's say describe the country you live in. This is one of the tasks. Now, what you're asking the students to do here, it might be that you could use a combination of these graphic organizers to answer that. In which case, you might start with, let's start with a mind map. And then so I'm building on our students' ideas. I'm going to draw an arrow there. Let's make that arrow nice and big. And I can see a kind of almost like an order that I'm going to go in. And then from my mind map, I'm going to go into, I'm going to chunk that into a tree diagram. So you can see how we're starting to make sense with this group of people I've never met before in my life. We're kind of creating ideas together, which I think is completely incredible as a kind of a tool. Now, as the teacher, I can select things, you know, and I can comment on them. I can lock them if I think they're particularly good. And I'm just going to just do this. I'm just going to zoom out for the rest of the people watching this. This is one part of our canvas. And if I zoom out, you can see that I've got lots of other things on our canvas, other things that we've been working on, which we might come to later on if we have enough time. But I just thought this. And if I want to bring everyone to me, let's say I'm going to zoom onto here. I just click on my icon. I'm going to bring everyone to me, and that brings all of our students straight to what I'm seeing. So if they go wandering off and they get distracted, I can hone them in. Okay, I think we've kind of done, you know, most of what I want to do with that task. Let's jump back into our PowerPoint.
Okay, Paul, I have two questions before going back to the PowerPoint. Can we use this app for big-sized class? We are modeling it with 4 students, but in real life, if we have 20, 25 students, do you recommend it?
Oh, yes, definitely. I would say if you're working with younger students, then it might be good to have smaller rooms. So you can see across the top here, I've got my ideas and tasks, and then I've got breakout room number 4, and we're in breakout room number 4, but if I just show you all the boards I have here, I've got breakout room number 7, 6, 5, you know, etc. And you know, I could send students off to each of those. So you've got the flexibility to have up to 200 people on here, I think. So, but yes, you know, that could be quite messy for the teacher.
Okay, so regarding the age, I would say the younger, the better to have in a small group. The older, as we can see now, they are much flexible to do the task without also messing around, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
And anyone involved in management and you want to do professional learning, that's how we use it. We use this with other teachers. So when we've got a group of teachers working on a particular task, we send them off to Miro, and then we do that way. So yesterday we ran a task with 24 teachers creating some documents together. And for that purpose, it's really brilliant because you're able to collaborate as if you were in the same room. Right, I'll jump back in. Ali,
Yes.
how long have I got, by the way?
So we still have around 35 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, when I'm finished, I think, and then we can have some questions afterwards. But
Yes.
I'll continue going through this. So that's what we've just been doing. And I thought we've looked at Miro. Let's have a look at Whimsical and see how this works, because it's quite a different tool. But I think I use it more than Miro because I think it's the easiest one. So I've gone around checking. I spent my life looking for really good online tools that we can use, and I'm just going to just make this full screen so you can see what this looks like. So hopefully now you can see Whimsical. We'll send you all the links to these things. Again, the reason I've chosen Whimsical, two main reasons really. One, for educators, they're very generous and it's free for the full system. You can organize your classes on there. And the second, actually the most important one, is the functionality. It's so quick to get your ideas out. You can just dump your ideas out really quickly without having to think too hard. One of the things about when you're working online and what doesn't work is if the functionality is too complex, it gets in the way of the students actually thinking about the material. So they'll spend more time thinking about downloading, uploading, copying, pasting than they will do the actual content they're trying to teach them. With Whimsical, I think it's a lot easier just to work very quickly. And I use it for creating mind maps and all those things that we looked at with the organizer and the organizers. So in terms of when you should use, I'm going to show you the functionality of this, but I just thought I'd create a graphic organizer about graphic organizers. But in terms of when you should use them, some people were asking me this the other day about the best time to use them. But I think they're really good for finding out what students already know about a topic, because then you can build on that knowledge. So if I can build a mind map about Italy and Italian culture, the teacher's got something then to work with, because I've obviously been there and I know a bit about it. It's very good for consolidating knowledge. So using knowledge organizers, graphic organizers at the end of a topic, and putting all your ideas together. Or you can think of it as a bit more like the cement that holds the facts together. And then I know a few teachers who use them as an assessment tool. So instead of having your traditional sort of question answer type assessment, why not get them to build a map? Because surely if they can build a map, then they really understand the topic. If you know it, you should be able to draw it. That's the kind of sort of the mantra of this, is that you should be able to put your ideas down and show the organizing structure beneath it. In terms of why I think they're good, and I think on real life collaboration in rooms with pen and paper and post-its, you can't get away from that. That's the best, because you're talking and you're collaborating, you can read body language and all the rest of it. But with the kind of the positives of doing it digitally is that if I make a mistake, if I change something, I can very quickly change it back, or I can change the color, and then I can work quickly, and I don't have to worry about making a mistake. I can try things out without that sort of fear of failure. And then we've always got our undo button, which we're all sort of reliant on. In terms of the drawbacks, I think I'm just conscious of giving children more screen time, but I think we're in a position now with schools being shut or having limited capacity in schools that we have to have screen time to compensate for the lack of face-to-face. So I don't think there's too much getting away from that. I think with Miro, it is definitely collaborative, and you can talk and build at the same time. I think with tools like this, it's not as collaborative, although saying that, there's nothing stopping you starting a Zoom conversation over the top of this and then us working together. So I could, if I wanted to, I could share this with you, but I don't think we can work on it at the same time. So that's it's not as a synchronous tool as Miro. I've got a couple of examples in here how you can use them. So if we just, I'm just going to zoom out so you can see, I've created another one of these canvases. So you can see here, I've got some ideas on here that I'm working on. And I think it's very good for being able to use it for organizing and categorizing things. So for example, if I've given loads of content, I can very quickly start thinking about, you know, how they all fit together. So I can make some conceptual links quite quickly. And I've made a mistake there, so I can get rid of that, move that out of the way, and I can start creating stuff on here and working very quickly within here. And I can get my ideas out, organize them in quite a quick way. So that's a kind of a hierarchical, I'm categorizing information on that one. But this one here that we're coming to, this is more of a sequence. So, you know, I use Whimsical for figuring out processes. So what do I need to do first? What do I need to do second? So I don't know, what's this? This is change. If I have a puncture on my bike. So, you know, I sort of start manipulating the information on here now. And then I can very quickly, you know, create a sequence of how I'm going to approach this task. So this is quite like a practical task here. And then, yeah, it might be at that point I replace the inner tube or I repair the puncture. That might be a decision there that I put in. And I might want to very quickly just sort of explain that with a graphic to say that I might do either of those. So you see how quickly, and I'm talking and doing this at the same time. If I'm not talking, I can do it a lot quicker. But and then, you know, our age-old favorite of the Venn diagram as well. You can build your Venn diagrams in here, and then you can copy and paste them and give them to your students. So you can replicate this board, the boards that you create, and then you can quickly, very quickly send them off to your students. So I can start. Let's have a look at this. These are some of my favorite films. So you can so very quickly, start categorizing information, comparing films, comparing whatever it is that you're looking at. So that's Whimsical. One other thing I've been looking at, and this is sort of influence. I watched a video. It was Joseph Novak, and he was talking about the power of concept maps. And what concept maps do is that they show you the relationship of different things. So you thinking, for everyone here on this webinar, you think about your subject matter. You've probably got some topics where there's a lot of different facts and dates and people and characters and lots of different material. Now, for what Daniel Willingham says is that if you can organize information, if you can understand it, then you're going to get sort of memory in for free. You know, memory is a byproduct of being able to understand something at a greater depth. I think concept maps are really good for building meaning, because you can show how things are related. So this is like a football one, just because Liverpool won the Premier League yesterday, and I thought, well, I better be rude not to do this. So I'm going to show you the relationship. So the TV channels, they pay the owner. Now I can actually put the relationship in here. So I'll put finance. So the TV channels finance the owner. But who pays for TV channels? So that's the fans who subscribe to the TV channels, and then I can put that relationship in here. So through subs, and then I can start to build up very quickly how all of these are related. So the owner is in charge. The owner is in charge of the coach. And, you know, I don't need to go through it, but you can very quickly show the relationship of quite complex material into something quite simple. Once I've got my concept map built, I've built my schema. I now understand how new information is going to fit into it. What that means is I'm in a much better position to be able to gather incoming material and make sense of it, because I've got something to work with. Did we have any questions about that, Ali? I'm just
So I'm getting questions on the following. If I'm not mistaken, Sonia is asking students, do they need emails to work on those platforms?
I think you do with Whimsical. With Miro, you don't need one.
Yes, because with Miro, we just send them the link.
Yes, and then that's a disposable link as well, Ali. So once you've finished with it, you can have students working on it for an hour, and then you turn that link off, and then you go back, and it's a fairly safe way of working.
Okay, we have a question regarding Miro. For the breakout room, do we need for each breakout room a link, separate link?
Yes, you do. So that link's different for each of those ones. So if I go back across here, I'll move that out of the way. If I go, I can show you, the share button. The link's going to be slightly different for each of those different boards across the top. I think that's the best way to work it, basically.
Very good. So Paul, we are on 25 minutes now. I would let you continue, and then I will come back with other questions.
Great. Okay. Well, the things I really wanted to get through were the visuals, because that's the sort of the bread and butter, if you like. They're the things that can really transform practice. And if any of you are in a position, I know there's some leadership people on the call. If you're looking at, one of the questions we always get is, how do you roll these stuff out? Is it going to be like a classroom by classroom model where you have interested teachers who either do it or they don't? Who we work with, people are looking at, how do you strategize this? How do you make sure everyone's got it? I think visuals are a really good starting point for putting schools on the path to becoming, sort of promoting independent learners. I think that's quite an easy one to get started with. The next thing I want to show you is this is a creation. This is part of Ali's birthday present. This is this is a taxonomy for thinking that I've created. It's something that's been sort of bubbling away over the years, and we're finally sort of finished it now. And if you think about sort of Bloom's taxonomy, solo taxonomy, I know is another sort of favorite one. The thinking taxonomies, they help you conceptualize how you want children to think. So, and usually they have this hierarchy where there's you're thinking at higher levels, you're critical thinking, you're involved in creative thinking. And they're really great for being able to think about the tasks that you've got and how they fit into a kind of a thinking framework. Recently there's a couple of people who sort of criticized them because they put a premium on the critical thinking and the creative thinking. But what they sort of miss out is the fact that they don't allow you to, they don't show students how to build knowledge to think critically with. So it's difficult to think creatively if you don't know the subject matter inside out, because you come up with sort of strange ideas. So what we tried to do was create a taxonomy which didn't have a hierarchy in it. And I'll just show what it looks like. Basically, it's, we're calling it the Universal Thinking Framework because we haven't thought of a name yet. But so for teachers, it's specifically for the classroom, and that's how we use it. It helps teachers create really structured lessons, and it brings the language of learning to the students. So the students are kind of familiar with the words that the teacher's using, the learning verbs, if you like. And we've been using it for initial teacher training, so helping trainee teachers think their way through a lesson plan or a scheme of work. How do you arrive at an inference? How do you help children make judgments? That real high level stuff. You've got to build knowledge before that. And for learners, it makes the kind of our big thing is making learning achievable. So we've all had it where you have those big tasks, and it might be analyze the effects of such and such, and it's a 2,000 word essay or something, and it's a real beefy subject. What we're trying to do with this taxonomy is help students and teachers break down the process into bite-sized chunks or academic stepping stones, if you like. And what we've been using for is breaking down those tricky tasks. And we spoke before about independence, and this is kind of one of those things that I think could help. This is what it looks like, sort of version 2 or 3 now, and we'll send you this as a PDF, a real high resolution PDF, and use it. I'm really happy to have any feedback from it if you've used it, and if you think it's useful or if you think it needs to be changed. It's a work in progress. So I'm happy for you guys, for everyone on the call, to have it and then give me some feedback with regards to this. So what we've done is we wanted to organize the different thinking processes. And what we've done is we've created 5 categories. So the green ones are kind of how you get started with a task. And then the blue ones are sort of relational processes, and that's what you do with information, how you actually manipulate it. Do I match it up together, or do I rank it, or am I sequencing it? What are you asking me to do with the information? That creates meaning. And then and then we had the reinforcing ideas, the whole idea about asking children to evidence and explain their thinking, you know, the kind of the substance of an essay, if you like. And then we had a few primary colleagues, and they said, well, a lot of those thinking frameworks, they miss out language. You know, how do we, it'd be really great if we could show a child when to integrate their target vocabulary, whether that be, you know, prepositions or conjunctions. You know, how can we integrate language into a framework? And so we put that in there just so teachers could pick out the cards. I mean, they're actually, I'll just hold them up. I've got them here in front of me. We've actually made these sort of physical cards, and they're like a deck of cards, and teachers drop them on the desks. But and then your red ones are the kind of where you end up. That's how you use knowledge. I won't go through them all now, but you know, they're just a really simple way of identifying what you're asking students to do.
Paul.
Yeah.
I'm getting great feedback on this in the chat. And then I have two questions related to your new taxonomy that you are sharing with everyone. Is this adding on Bloom's taxonomy? This is question one.
What a great question. Shall I answer that now? I'll answer that now.
Yes, if you want. I think it connects very well, no?
Yes, it does, incredibly. So there's a book I read recently, and it's called Thinking Frameworks, and it's about, it goes through all the different frameworks for thinking. So Bloom's is in there, Solo, and there's a whole host of other ones that I've never even heard of. And over the years, people have tried to organize it and they usually do it in a way that's really useful for academics. So if I'm a professor at a university and I'm doing teacher training and I want to write a thesis on this, then you know, I go to the Bloom's and the Solo and these other ones. This one is for teachers. That's the kind of the difference. I think you could have Bloom's next to this and say, well, actually, let's move our way through Bloom's until we are doing this. But what we try to do is make sure that children have a thorough understanding and that no child gets left behind. Is there another question, Ali?
I think Mary, I'm not sure, Mary, she's one of our students. Mary, are you able to talk? If you unmute yourself, she wanted also to ask a question. Yes, hi, Mary.
Yeah, hello. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. This is amazing work. I have several questions, and one specifically related to alignment with Project Zero, visible thinking tool.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. Yeah. So what is it? Was your question like how? Yeah. Does this align to what Project Zero have done?
Or do you have an alignment chart or something like that we can? Because one of the things, I was on a webinar with the two authors of that book last week, and they said they haven't really gone web-based with it for distance learning, but that may be their next steps. But they said it could be connected, and I guess this to me looks like a great connection. And I'm just wondering if there is an alignment, if you've done an actual alignment for some of those tools, because we have a lot of teachers using those tools, and it would be great to say, oh, for this tool, use that, you know, that part of
yes.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Mary, and that's a great step forward for me and for other people working in this area, is how you bring them together. And I did do some alignment with Solo and Bloom's, and I'll send Ali the PDF, and then he can distribute it, because it's one of my early pieces of graphic design, which I wasn't particularly pleased with, but it's got the principle there in it. But because I do a lot of I do all the graphic design for this as well, so I try to think about color and how that affects children as well, about how, you know, if they see a red one, they're going to know they're going to be asked to do some higher level thinking, and you know, the orange one, they're going to be asking to be integrated some language. So I've tried to put myself in the seat of a teacher and a learner, and create something that's worthwhile for them. But in terms of where it's going, I've got some slides, Mary, that might show you you know, how we've used it, because we're thinking about online and where that goes. It started off as the actual cards, so like a deck of cards.
Wow.
And these are wonderful for this is Birmingham City University, the initial teacher training, and you get the cards out, and then you say to one of the trainee teachers, how do you want them to think about it? Now, we did it physically, but think about what we've just done in Miro, why can we do it through that? That's the thing. Yeah, we could potentially do that through Miro. And anyway, I just wanted to show you this, because if I just hop back in, hopefully you can see this. If we come down here, hopefully you can see the taxonomy down here. And we've been sort of just playing with it, just seeing how, you know, how it could work. And you can see, can you see what we've done here?
Yes.
So here's a template. And what we did, this was just yesterday we did this. We were looking at dragging and dropping the various cards into a kind of into a template. So I could say, well, actually, I want them to verify their ideas at the end of the subject, and you can create these templates, these thinking templates, and very quickly build up a kind of a guide. So if anyone here wants to I'll say collaborate, join a focus group or something, it might be something that we could talk about after this, Ali, that there might be people who want to sort of think about how this could be sort of implemented in there. You know, what could we do with it, basically? That's what I'm interested in looking at. But yeah, we've certainly been thinking about how you can create lessons with it. One of the other things we've been doing, you know, for the cards exercise, it works really well. And then this is what one of the teachers had created. This is a science one, and we've got the exam guidance next to us, and then she puts down the cards and walks the child through how she wants them to think about it, which I think is incredible, because you're asking the teacher to think metacognitively. They're thinking about the thinking. So it was a real taxing task doing this, but what kind of where we want to get to with this, and I don't have all the answers to this yet, but is that you could give those cards to a child, and then they could say, oh, I think you're asking me to identify first, explain second, and then I think if I rank those ideas, I could build a solid conclusion, and then I could make a judgment. And so they'd be able to take those cards and define a learning journey. So similar to what we did with the visual organizers, the graphic organizers, we're giving tools for students to think with with the intention of them being able to use those tools throughout their life. Yeah, it's not just for the here and now of the task. You're trying to give the students tools they can learn with. Here's another one. Yeah, this is some of the early prototypes we did, but it's incredible watching unpicking the learning process. And this is something else, Ali, that we can send round to the group. I was creating some. This is a low definition version of it, but I'm creating graphic sort of graphic organizers, but combining the framework into it, the new taxonomy. So I'll send you the PDFs of these, Ali, and you can send them out to everyone. And we've got like a diamond 9 and sequencing and a whole array of another ones. And what we're trying to do is integrate those learning verbs into it, as you can see there. So, you know, the idea is that I've sequenced something together, and then you can elaborate and infer. But what we're doing now is making this digital, so as a digital PDF, so the students will be able to fill it out. So it's a kind of an asynchronous type of exercise. So it's a worksheet that you could send to a student. They would fill it out and they could send it back to you. So again, it would be online learning, but not perhaps as interactive as the Miro stuff and the Whimsical things. I just want to show you one that we created. This is in the UK. There's in the national curriculum, the Roman Empire is usually in there somewhere, and this is just a kind of an idea of how we would use it. Identify the full range of benefits that resulted from the Roman occupation, and you can see. I don't need to go through it all, but you can see how we gradually rank up the complexity of the thinking. We've only got sort of five cards on there, but you can gradually sort of walk your way through a sort of a learning journey. Anyway, I'm coming towards the end. I just want to make sure that we get a chance to kind of put it all together, because these webinars are great, Ali, aren't they? The best we can do, I think, is look at a new perspective on learning and cognition. Hopefully, everyone's sort of had a look at that.
Right. So, Paul, we have 10 minutes.
Yep.
And I still have some few questions for you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, let's. I just want to just briefly show you this. We've been doing this exercise with schools, and it's an interesting one. I thought it might be a good one for everyone on this webinar. If you're looking at how do you go about creating change in your school? So you're all on this webinar because you're interested in this area. You've got some kind of interest in in using visuals online, and you've been forced to work online, and there's a whole array of different other reasons. But if you're involved in a school who's looking at this strategically, one of the exercises that we're trying to do at the moment is get teachers to play the psychologist. So like what we just did in the other task there, where I had the cards and I was getting the student teachers to think about how do you want them to think, design the thinking process for your students. We've been doing the same sort of with teachers, and we've been creating, we've been doing some sort of design thinking around sort of problems you'd see in the classroom. And what we're trying to do is encourage teachers to dig a little deeper into the various problems that they see. And what we're saying is that a lot of those may be behavioral problems, or it might be that someone doesn't want to put their hand up. So someone doesn't want to participate in class discussions. Someone's afraid of getting something wrong. It's often down to the fact that there's something cognitive going on. So we make judgments upon what we see, but the cognitive side of things is invisible and by definition a little bit more difficult to work with. So where I'm getting to is we've been using Miro to unpick learning problems, and this is a really interesting task to do. So as a starting point, so we put this in Miro, and I put down loads of different problems on post-it notes, and this is a really interesting exercise to do with your colleagues. And what you do is you start to join them up. So you match. So for example, on here, I've said they struggle to organize their work. That might be because they're overwhelmed by the volume of what they have to learn. And they might be overwhelmed because they don't know how to organize it. So, and you keep saying why, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And you eventually get to the root cause. And I'm trying to sort of promote this as a way of approaching tasks, those complex tasks that you have in your classroom, because I think that if you keep digging deeper and deeper and making these conceptual connections, you eventually arrive at something something cognitive, something's not quite going right with the way they're thinking about the material. And I'm hoping that the things today that we've gone through, they can all be used to sort of act as a sort of a remedy for some of these ideas. Very quickly, I thought, Ali, would it be a good idea to have some questions now? Because I think I've got through all the material that I had, and we could keep going on and on and on, but I think, yes. I want to hear some of the questions.
So quick questions for you. I think they will be fast. Mm-hmm. Are the cards available? Are they printed?
Yes, they are at the moment. Yes, I'm at the moment. I've got some prototypes on our website, and the website's here, structurallearning.com. I would say just send me a message afterwards if you're interested. I just want to show you the screen. Can you see this, Ali? This is where the website where it's all kept, and we've got loads. I was going to say this to Ali as well. We've got loads of research on here. Should your delegates here be interested in this area, we've created a research library.
Very good. We are going to share all your contacts, Paul, your website, your email in our follow-up email tomorrow with the link of the recording. So for all the people who are asking about the documents, the resources, it's coming. Don't be worried about that.
Okay, great. So the cards, we're working on at the moment, and I've created the first batch of them. So if you're interested, I put them up on the site, but send me an email afterwards, and we can talk about.
Okay, Paul, I have another question. How do you introduce these cards to students?
Now we've been experimenting with this. I think students are really good at using these. One way that we've been using them is we're going on the principle that if a student has repeated exposure to the words, I don't know, if they see this word eliminate, if they see that one, every week, they know what eliminate means. And when a teacher asks them to eliminate, they know what that means. So we put them on the PowerPoints. We've got the iconography to put into the PowerPoints, into worksheets, stickers to go into workbooks, and posters. And if you surround students with these words, then they begin to pick them up. The best example I've seen these being introduced with students is, this is a secondary school in England, and the teacher walks around the classroom and she just drops them on the desk oh, that's great. Can you make any connections for me? Oh, and then she'll go over to the other group. Oh, can you think about integrating your target vocabulary? And so they use it on the fly, which is quite an interesting way of using it. So I think integral to planning, but also on the fly when you're using it with students.
Okay, more questions, or do you want to wrap up? I still have some questions, Paul, so let me know.
Give me a couple more questions and I'll
okay, couple of more questions. Let me ask you about the following. So those cards, you introduce them in the primary, in the early years, in the middle school, in the high school. So when do we start using those?
Well, I think you can use them when children are 4. I think they're quite capable of knowing this.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're looking at working with all through schools, so they can. So a child would have that all the way through their sort of academic career with school. But yeah, I don't think that. I mean, even for grown-ups, I think for adults, there's. We could learn a lot from learning how to think ourselves.
Very good. Okay, so let's continue with you, and then I come back to some questions at the end.
Okay, I just wanted to do one more show and tell, Ali, if that's okay. Because,
yes, go ahead.
So I put down here about collaboration opportunities, and I always think, well, this is the first time we've all met, and hopefully you've got an understanding of what I do and what I've been doing. And but I want to share one thing with you that I haven't had a chance to talk about, and it's about visual thinking and organizing thoughts. And this is the kind of the thing that I created a while back, and this is a tool which is not digital. As you can see in front of you now, it's basically building bricks where you put miniature whiteboards in and you allow children to work together and collaborate, and they build things. So if you think about all the online things we've been talking about today, it's the same principles, but in a physical space. And we're looking at how we can help children to organize their thoughts and ideas so that when they put their ideas down onto pen and paper, they make more sense. And we've been going through a process of research and development and looking at how we can use them for language learning and conceptual learning. And we're finding this, that if you put a visual, if you put the bricks, or if you put anything in the middle of a learning conversation, it gives it more structure. So it's sometimes quite difficult if you set people up into small groups. It's quite difficult sometimes to keep them focused on the subject matter. You've got to have something at the center of that conversation. And we've been experimenting with the bricks, with this brick building idea. And we've been using it with sort of quite high retaining students. So giving them a platform to keep thinking and pushing themselves. So anyway, the reason I wanted to show it is because we're doing research with it. And should any of you be interested in collaborating on this and doing some research with us, then we could potentially look at that as well, Ali. I'm on my last slide, Ali.
Yes, your last slide. We still have 3 minutes. So let me ask some specific questions about that application. So people were asking on can a student work together collaboratively while using Whimsical?
I haven't tried that out yet, to be honest with you, Ali. I don't think it's got the synchronous functionality that Miro has, but I haven't tried it. So get yourself a free education license and give it a go.
Very good. So try those things, let us know how do they work, and then experiment them with your student, like what we have done today. Rizwan, Mary, Sean, Farah, and Shakira. They took the risk, they joined us, they tried this application online. And if you have any questions, so let us know, Rizwan, Mary again, Sean or Shakira, if you want to say anything. Farah, before we wrap it up.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you so much. I'm Rizwan. Basically, these are very, very nice things that we can apply in our school. And if you ask for early years, we can we use these kind of things for the earliest students for design thinking or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think you can, Rizwan. Yeah, I think there's no reason why not. Everything we've done today is about human principles of learning, and they're universal. So everything about organizing ideas, we just might have to reframe it with the early years.
Okay, other questions from our students? Shakira, Farah, Sean, we're okay. How did you find the session?
session was wonderful. Thank
Very
you.
valuable, honestly. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Shakira. Thank you all for joining in.
Absolutely unbelievable, Paul. Thank you
Wow.
so much for opening the door to all of this. I'm really excited about the potential for research. We have a very large school system of second language learners, and these really help uncover the thinking in layers for our second language learners. And I think this is like tremendous opportunity for our teachers.
I'm so happy to see that we are wrapping up all these series with webinar with something very inspiring. People in the chat, they are very, very happy, very informative, very structured. So some updates from 4th Generation for Education. We're going to take a small break, but we are coming back. So if you have your agenda with you now, put some dates. 8th of August, a day full of presentation in Arabic, Mary. So you need to invite all your team. So a full day of presentation in Arabic. And then we will continue, as you know us, doing those 3 webinars in French, in English, and in Arabic. We are so happy to have Paul, hopefully face-to-face with us in Dubai. If everything goes well and all this lockdown will finish and we will be able to travel. So Paul is coming to Dubai. Wait for all our updates. All our calendar will be ready in the next few days to update you about the online courses, the face-to-face courses, and the free webinar. Paul, a final word from your side?
No, just thank you so much for being so receptive, and hopefully you can see what I'm trying to do is just look at learning in a fresh perspective and just rethink what we've been doing, and that's kind of all I've asked, sort of hopefully of you today. But you know, I hopefully this will be the first conversation of many to come.
So in the chat, I'm sending you our 4th Generation website, all our previous webinars, the recording are there. Feel free to subscribe, to share, to add a comment, to tell other educators about what we are offering. This is the best way to spread the word and to stay connected. Thank you again. Thank you, our volunteers. If anyone would like to say a final word, again, I'm happy to hear it.
Thank you very much, Paul, from Paris. It was really cool for you to put the spotlight on learning and thinking, but in very concrete ways. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Very good. So time to say goodbye.
Abu Dhabi. Shukran. This is amazing.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank
Time
you so
to
much,
say
Mary.
goodbye for everyone. A final word from my side. Have a nice, relaxing summer break. Please, as teacher, your well-being is a priority. Relax, get ready for another academic year full of inspiration and new ideas, and maybe trying new things in your classes, at your school level, and maybe in your countries. The follow-up email will be sent tomorrow. Feel free to fill the evaluation form and check all the resources that Paul will be sharing with us. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.